Okay, good morning everyone. We're from Sancta Maria-Team-1-Dhriti School. My name is Dhriti.
My name is Aarnav.
My name is Manvik.
And after finding out about this category in the competition, we were very excited because there are many unacknowledged forgotten heroes in science. And today we'll be covering one. So let's start with a game. There's going to be a scientist on the screen and you have to guess their name. And if you do, you can get a chocolate. Okay, so the first scientist. Albert Einstein, of course. So who was the chocolate? Okay, the next scientist. APJ Abdul Kalam. Okay, the next scientist.
Robert Oppenheimer.
Yeah, J. Robert Oppenheimer. And now finally the last scientist. And there's silence. None of you know this unacknowledged hero. This is the first lady of physics, Jian Shuing-Wu. So let's learn more about her early life before we proceed. So she was a Chinese-American physicist who made revolutionary discoveries. She was born on May 31st in 1912 in a small province in China. Her mother was a teacher and father was an engineer and activist. During that time, it wasn't the norm for girls to be given education. But since her father was very passionate about education, he made sure his daughter received the best quality. He even ended up starting his own school under which Jian Shuing-Wu did her primary education. Next slide. She was always very interested in math and physics. So she studied at the University of California, Berkeley. Her major was first math and then she switched to nuclear physics, where she actually learned under several renowned scientists like Oppenheimer. She was the first female professor in the physics department at Princeton, which was very unheard of at that time.
She was also in the same class as Maria-Team.
She was popularly known as the Chinese Mary Curie.
So we're going to talk about her inequality. So first, she was not very acknowledged because number one, during World War II, communism was looked up against, and there was a lot of racism and gender inequality during that time. The misogynistic views of that time prevented her, and even though she was one of the most gifted and renowned scientists, technically who could perform actual lab experiments, complex lab experiments, all her predecessors and people like Li and Yang, her colleagues in the experiment, were gifted the Nobel Prize in 1957, but she was not even acknowledged by a single paper or article during that time. But like undeterred, she proceeded helping gender inequality, teaching physics and conducting very complex experiments. Next slide, please. Why she should be known better? First, the Manhattan Project. So Robert Oppenheimer was not capable of diffusing uranium and splitting it into isotopes, and she was one of the first people to split uranium-235 and 238 into different isotopes. This was unheard of at that time because this was the basis of the fission nuclear bomb. And she is one of the biggest contributors to the Manhattan Project, but she was never acknowledged till today. And there's another theory of parity violation, which basically shows that the photon and the electron have a symmetry, that basically in a hypothetical mirror world, this could, the hypothetical mirror world, the same thing happens except for the difference of left and right. So the actual mirror world doesn't exist. So they needed a very technically renowned scientist to actually perform this experiment. Next slide.
So